The chamber was dim, lit only by cold vertical strips of violet light embedded in the metallic walls. A soft hum of machinery echoed like distant thunder, persistent and impersonal. The air stank of disinfectant and scorched metal. Elira Voss lay crumpled on the floor, her body half covered in a torn combat suit that barely clung to her bloodied frame. Her breath came in sharp, uneven pulls. Every inhale dragged fire through her ribs. Every exhale was a struggle not to scream. Her right leg twitched involuntarily, shattered in at least 2 places. Her left arm hung dead from the shoulder. The pain wasn't new. It had moved past the screaming phase and into a dull, choking haze that made her limbs feel alien. Across the room, 2 Zarkali guards watched her with amusement flickering in their bioluminescent eyes. Towering, sinewy creatures with glistening skin that pulsed faintly with iridescent light, they conversed in low, slithering tones. She understood none of it, but tone needed no translation. They were laughing. One of them stepped forward. It bent low and tapped her shattered exosuit with a long, clawed finger, producing a hollow metallic sound. "Once mighty," it said in broken Terran standard. "Now, soft, crawling meat." It grinned, a sickening stretch of skin and fangs. Elira didn't respond. Her eyes, dull and bruised, stared at the floor beneath her. The words didn't sting. Not anymore. She had lost the capacity to feel embarrassment or shame sometime during the 3rd round of beatings. Or maybe it was after they had dragged her through the war hall like a trophy. She wasn't sure. Time had become fluid since her capture, stretching, warping, folding in on itself. They had taken her armor, dismembered her squad, and thrown her into this prison cell with no medpacks, no food, no dignity. And yet she clung to consciousness. Not out of hope. Hope had died with Lieutenant Varen's screams echoing through the comms. No, she remained alive because of something darker, something carved deep into the marrow of her being, rage. The door behind the guards hissed open with a sudden whoosh, and a new figure entered. Not a warrior, not a soldier. A Zarkali noble, evident by the ornate plating on its upper limbs and the strange organic crown fused into its skull. It approached slowly, every step a performance, until it stood directly over her. "She bleeds well," it said, turning to the guards. "But her spirit, still clinging. How very human." It knelt beside her, a clawed hand gently tracing the outline of her cheek. "How far will she crawl before she expires?" Elira's lips moved. No words came, only a whisper of air, barely a thought. But it was enough to draw a chuckle from the noble. It rose again, satisfied, and turned toward the exit. The guards followed. One paused to glance back. "Crawl far, Terran. Your suffering makes us sing." And then they were gone, the door sealing with a hiss that echoed like a coffin lid slamming shut. She lay still for a moment longer. The silence returned, a heavy, breathing thing that wrapped around her limbs and tried to pull her into unconsciousness. But Elira wasn't ready to surrender. Not yet. Her eyes flicked toward the corner of the room, where the remains of her armor lay in a tangled, scorched pile. The Zarkali hadn't bothered to dispose of it. Probably considered it a ruined toy. Useless. Forgotten. Her fingers twitched. It was 7 meters away. A galaxy of pain separated her from the core of what remained of her command suit, model for Havoc frame, with integrated AI and emergency biosync features. She had helped prototype the damn thing. If even a fragment of its systems remained intact, it might still hold enough juice to keep her alive. Maybe even fight. She began to move. First, a twitch of her foot, then a slide of her torso, inching forward, teeth clenched so hard she felt blood leak between them. The floor scraped at her skin. Her vision blurred. Her leg screamed. Her arm dangled uselessly. She dragged herself using one hand and sheer willpower. In her mind, images flashed, her team standing proud before the mission. Lieutenant Varen cracking a joke about dying with style. Medic Juno adjusting her visor. Specialist Tren handing her a locket before launch, murmuring, "Bring this back." They were all dead. Burned. Vaporized.
crushed.
And she, humiliated, broken, crawling, was their last echo.
3 meters now.
The pain blurred everything. Each breath was a battle. Her fingernails tore against the grated floor. Every heartbeat was a hammer against her skull. 2 meters. The AI core sat barely visible beneath the folded shell of the chest plate. If it still worked, it might recognize her biometrics. If not, well, she would die here like a dog, but she'd already made peace with that. 1 meter. She collapsed beside it, chest heaving, sweat pouring down her temples. She reached out, her hand trembling, fingertips grazing the edge of the AI module. Her voice was a ghost. Nox. Nothing. Then, a flicker of light. A weak pulse of blue from the core. "Commander." "Voss," said a faint, synthetic voice. "Critical condition, integrity compromised. Do you wish to activate final protocol? Project Revenant." She closed her eyes, lips curling in a blood-stained smile. Yes. The light flared brighter. The darkness retreated, just a little. Pain was the first sensation to return, not the sharp, immediate kind, but something deeper, like every cell in her body was waking up from a nightmare. Elira's eyes fluttered open to a faint blue glow pulsing beneath her skin, veins illuminated like circuitry etched into flesh. Her muscles no longer burned with exhaustion. They surged with something else, something synthetic, yet intimately hers. She sat up slowly, the broken agony of moments ago replaced with an eerie stillness. Not numbness.
Power.
"Nox," she whispered, voice hoarse but steady. "Project Revenant is now active," came the AI's reply, smoother and more present, no longer fragmented. "Neural link stabilized. Nanite regeneration at 68%. Muscle integrity restored. New subroutines integrated. Zarkali combat mapping, energy displacement shielding, and cortical reflex amplification. You are operational, Commander." Her fingers flexed, armored plates growing from under her skin in response. They weren't mechanical attachments. They were becoming her. The suit wasn't something she wore, it was rebuilding her. It was her. Elira rose to her feet. The movement was seamless, fluid. No more staggering, no more blood pooling at her heels. The walls that once loomed above her now felt smaller, almost trivial. She could hear beyond the cell, footfalls of a guard down the corridor, the faint hum of alien power conduits, the mutter of distant voices. All filtered, cataloged, analyzed by Nox in real time. She moved to the wall panel beside the sealed door and pressed a palm to the cold surface. Nanites surged into the interface like liquid lightning, and the door released with a reluctant hiss. A lone Zarkali guard turned in confusion, its weapon only halfway raised before Elira was on him. She didn't think. She moved. One hand caught his wrist and twisted it with a sickening crack, the plasma weapon clattering to the floor. Her other arm punched forward, blades erupting from her knuckles. They sliced through his armored carapace like paper. The creature shrieked, then fell silent as her foot crushed its throat. "No alerts triggered," Nox confirmed. "Silent kill successful." She retrieved the weapon, its interface already syncing with her hybridized systems. Familiar alien glyphs translated instantly across her vision. "Upload a schematic of the ship," she ordered. "Mapping in progress. Caution. Central reactor controls are located on the upper command deck, guarded by 4 elite warborn. Estimated survival probability, tactically unfavorable." "That's fine," she muttered. "I'm not here to survive." She moved like a shadow through the corridors, every footstep silent, every breath controlled. The few aliens she encountered fell quickly, some ambushed with lethal precision, others killed before they even saw her face. The silence became her ally. The deeper into the ship she went, the more memories returned. Of her team, the ambush, the pain, the fear. Now all of it burned in her chest like a furnace. She found her way into the ship's secondary databank vault, slipping between corridors lined with alien growths and humming spires of living tech. The chamber was quiet, lit with pulsating orange light from a nearby energy core. Inside, dozens of pods hummed quietly, holding data, or maybe prisoners. Nox, scan all active pods. Prisoner pods detected. Most are non-human captives. One pod matches human DNA profile. Specialist Tren, status, stasis suspension. Life signs stable. Elira's breath caught. She hadn't dared to hope. Tren had been the last to fall beside her, shielding her from the blast that dismembered her exosuit. She crossed to the pod in 3 strides and tore open the panel. Mist hissed out. Tren gasped awake, eyes wide with panic until they locked on her. "Elira," he rasped. "You're not dead," she said, more to herself than to him. "You all look different." His gaze traced the glowing filaments under her skin, the shifting armor that moved like it breathed. "What happened to you?"
"They made me crawl," she said.
"Then I got up." He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Then let's make them regret it." She helped him out of the pod, his legs weak but unbroken. He would slow her down, but she didn't care. He was her brother in arms. The last thread of her team. That meant something. A sudden vibration shook the floor beneath them. "Ship-wide alert," Nox reported. "Command has detected security breaches. Warborn squads are mobilizing." Elira narrowed her eyes. "Good. Let them come." Tren grabbed a rifle from a fallen guard's corpse. "You've got a plan?" "Not yet," she said, eyes scanning the updated map flickering across her vision. "But I know where their command throne is. And I know what needs to happen." They moved together, cutting through the ship like a blade. What was once her prison had become her battlefield. Every corridor was a memory. Every kill was a reckoning. She paused at a bulkhead as the shadows lengthened and the door to the upper levels loomed ahead. Nox status. Armor integrity, stable. Adrenal surge balanced. Remaining nanite reserve at 54%. Readiness, optimal. Elira looked down at her hands, part human, part machine, all fury. "They think I'm here to escape," she said quietly. "They're wrong." And with that, she stepped into the light of the Warborn's throne. The throne chamber was vast, built not for function but for intimidation. A cathedral of cruelty where power echoed in every line of its obsidian walls. At the center, raised on a dais shaped from living metal, sat the Zarkali High Warlord, encased in ceremonial armor pulsating with molten energy. Flanking him were 3 elite Warborn, each twice Elira's height, their weapons humming with brutal promise. Massive banners of flayed skins and scorched flags hung above, trophies from conquered worlds. Earth's flag, burned and torn, lay draped over the steps leading to the throne. Elira stepped into the chamber, her presence halting all conversation. Her armor shifted across her form with a mechanical purr, the nanite plating alive, adaptive, breathing with her. Beside her, Specialist Tren stood ready, pale but steady, the barrel of his rifle already aimed at the closest Warborn. The warlord didn't rise. He simply tilted his grotesque head and let out a low, guttural laugh that echoed across the chamber like grinding stone. "The Terran lives," he said, voice translated through a guttural distortion. The broken flesh rebuilt itself. A trick of desperation. Elira's voice cut through the air, cold and absolute. "You should have made sure I died." The warlord raised a claw, gesturing to his guards. "Kill the insect. Break her again." The first Warborn charged, its weapon launching a barrage of plasma bolts. Elira moved before the sound even registered, her body flowing into motion with terrifying grace. The projectiles arced around her, dodged, deflected, absorbed by adaptive shielding. She surged forward, closing the distance in a blink, leaping onto the creature's chest. Her fists became blades. The Warborn screamed as its armor split open, and she drove a pulse detonator into its ribcage. It exploded in a flash of light and gore. The second guard rushed Tren. He didn't run. He planted his feet, braced the rifle, and unloaded 3 precise shots. The Warborn stumbled, stunned, and Elira was there in the next breath, vaulting off a wall, slicing its jugular mid-spin, and twisting her body into a landing roll. The beast collapsed behind her in a heap of smoke and twitching limbs. The third Warborn hesitated. Run, she told it. It didn't. It attacked. But hesitation was death. Elira caught its blade with her forearm, armor flaring to absorb the blow. She drove her palm into its chest, nanites rushing forward like a black tide. The creature screamed as its armor was hijacked, its systems overridden. It convulsed and dropped. She didn't even watch it die. Only the warlord remained. He stood now, looming over her, taller than the others, his body fused with alien tech and genetic enhancements. His armor cracked open, revealing writhing tendrils and a pulsating heart of fused crystal and flesh. "I am the end of your kind," he hissed. She stared back. "Then you'll be the first to fall." He moved like a meteor, swinging a blade carved from neutronium, fast enough to slice steel. She ducked, barely, the edge grazing her cheek. Sparks flew. Her HUD flooded with collision warnings. But she didn't retreat. She surged forward, slipping under his swing, driving her elbow into his side. He grunted, stumbled, then retaliated with a backhand that launched her across the room. She hit the far wall with enough force to crater it. "Nox," she gasped, coughing blood. "Override pain receptors. Flood with stabilizer." Confirmed, the AI replied, emotionless. Re-engaging combat mode. The warlord was already charging. She rolled aside, sprang up, and emptied her plasma pistol into his face. The blast seared flesh but did little to slow him. He roared and slammed her into the floor, claws tearing into her armor. She screamed, caught his wrist, and triggered a pulse surge. Energy exploded outward, blowing both of them apart. She rose first, staggered, bleeding, alive. The warlord tried to stand, but Tren's rifle barked once, then twice, rounds hammering into the exposed crystal in his chest. Elira didn't hesitate. She rushed forward, drove her forearm blade into the glowing heart, and whispered, "For every scream you made me listen to." The warlord's eyes widened, and then he collapsed, his body breaking apart in spasms of fire and cracking bone. Silence. Real silence. Then the klaxons began to wail. "Fleet-wide transmission detected," Nox said calmly. "Command node compromised. We now have access to the entire dreadnought's neural system." "Bring it down," she said. "All of it." Confirmed. Initiating cascading failure protocol. Across the massive viewport behind the throne, lights began to flicker. External cameras showed chaos, Zarkali ships losing power, colliding, spinning out of orbit. Internal systems shorted, fire raged through their corridors. One by one, the symbols of Zarkali domination fell dark. Tren limped to her side. "We just destroyed their flagship." "No," Elira said. "We lit a fuse." He looked at her, brow furrowed. "What happens now?" She stared out at the void, watching debris scatter like dust across the stars. "Now we hunt the rest." Beneath her skin, the nanites pulsed once more, quiet, ready. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the empire that thought her broken began to realize the price of letting her live.